so we'll just start with the how-to part.
Okay, so what does this look like in my classroom? First, I always give the students a purpose for what they're reading. So why are they reading this, and how will it apply to their life? Will they ever use this when they leave West Dubuque? So once I talk to them about the purpose, I kind of let them know about what they'll be reading about. So how the information is presented. Are we learning about a process? Are we learning about specific information? Are the kids going to be learning about a research article? Because this will all, I don't know the word I want to use, sorry.
That's okay.
This will allow them to decide which type of graphic organizer they use. The students, based on practice they have certain graphic organizers they feel work best for cause and effect, certain graphic organizers they feel like work best for processes, for things that they're comparing. So that way when they actually get the text to preview it, which comes next, they know what to look for when setting up their graphic organizer. I should be doing like 1, 2.
That's fine. You did first. Now
Okay.
just start with second.
But I'm already on 3.
Oh, I'll put that in there.
So I'll just say second right now. I'll say second.
Okay.
So the second thing we do is we look at what type of information is provided in the reading. So are they looking at a cause and effect? Are they looking at a process? All of this will help them decide what type of graphic organizer they want to use. So once I've kind of presented this information to them, they're actually allowed to preview the reading on their own. So when they preview the reading, they're going to look for things that will help them set up their graphic organizer. So like we discussed before, is the reading talking to them about a process? Is the reading having them compare and contrast things? Some students are creatures of habit, and no matter in what way the reader presents the information, they are going to set up their graphic organizer very similar. Some students are very individualized and change their graphic organizer based on the type of reading that they're doing. During this time, I also have some students draw examples of their graphic organizers on the board for a couple reasons. One, it helps those students that are struggling to come up with a format that they think will work for them. And 2, because it also allows students to see that not everybody's graphic organizer looks the same, and that's okay because we want this to work best for you. After the students have had time to preview the text and create their graphic organizer or format their graphic organizer is when they actually get to read and actively read while they're looking at their graphic organizer. This looks different based on the reading. Sometimes students will read in pairs, sometimes students read individually. I started giving my students the choice, and now almost all of my students choose to read individually because that's what works best for them. So while reading, the students are looking for main ideas, they're looking for questions, for difficult words they find in the reading. They also, even though they read on their own, they'll be discussing with others or connecting concepts with others who are around them, asking questions about things that they don't understand. What I'm doing at this time is observing things that all of these graphic organizers have in common. So do I see difficult words that all of the students are adding? Or do I hear all of the students asking similar questions? Do I hear all of the students talking about certain main ideas? I also help them make those connections. So reminding them about what our purpose is and asking them questions as if they were in a situation. After the students have a chance to read, the 5th thing I do is we have a discussion about the reading. So this often starts with difficult words that kind of inhibited us from fully understanding the reading because we didn't know what they were. So a lot of times these end up being words that all of the students have in common that they didn't understand. So there's a few ways then that we figure out what these words mean. Sometimes we chunk the words and use our prior knowledge to figure out what those difficult words mean. Sometimes the students will use visuals to try and figure out or remember what the words mean. And in many cases, these students are using context clues. So trying to look at the words and sentences around that difficult word or difficult long vocabulary word that they're not sure of, and they're able to kind of infer what that word means. So they might not be able to tell you an exact definition, but maybe they can give you information like, I think this is something that treats cancer because of the information around that word in the sentence. After we talk about the difficult words, this is when we can get into the main ideas of the reading. So what were your biggest takeaways? How do you think this can apply? How can you use this information? And this goes back to bringing back the why of the article. So I bring back the purpose. So this is why we read this, and what are some things that you took away that you think you can use in the future? What we do after we're able to discuss and bring back the connection is we actually do a reading check. So this is how I check for the students' comprehension. I usually ask them a question, give them all a Post-it note, a note card, whatever works, and I ask them a question dealing with the main idea of a passage. So for some it might be, why are some children born with cystic fibrosis? When I have these all at the end of class, I'm able to split them into students that were able to comprehend the passage and students that weren't. And there's a few things I do after I give this reading comprehension check. So one is I track the data. This is for me and the student. So one, I want to make sure that the students are understanding and comprehending what we read. The second reason I do this is because I want to make sure that these strategies and skills I'm giving them are actually working. So I began tracking data when I chose the reading and I chose the organizers. And I wanted to make sure that as the students began to take ownership of this, that their reading comprehension was staying either the same or getting even better as we went on. So if I find that I have a large percentage of students who didn't comprehend the data, something I might do is address those misconceptions, which really in a lot of cases is why there was a misunderstanding, is because there was a misconception somewhere in the article. I also might take 5 minutes of the next class just to review the main ideas for them and try and connect the reading to whatever we've talked about in class previously or whatever we will talk about in class in the future. And then that's kind of the last thing I have for the comprehension check.
Okay.
But what else do you want me to say?
Now just kind of wrap it up and talk to me about like how you feel this has impacted the students in your classroom.
Okay. I think that this has made a huge impact on students in my classroom. They're able to actively read, choose graphic organizers. They enjoy reading because they feel like they're good at it and they feel like they can. And it really helps us, not only in our class, but even looking at a test or looking at articles now, they know that they're looking for difficult words. And now even when we're reading out of our textbook, they do things like look for difficult words or highlight summaries because they're able to actually apply these strategies. So I know that not only is this making an impact in my classroom, but I think this is making an impact for these students and their education as a whole because they're able to apply these practices and strategies to the rest of their lives. I think it's also important to know that the students feel that this is very important too. So I've heard students say things like, the reason Ms. Kleesner does this is because it's preparing us for college, or the reason Ms. Kleesner does this is because it's making us better readers. So the students also know that implementing reading and the ability to read and practicing reading is important for the rest of their lives.